Have you ever felt like you wanted to snap at work? Do you ever feel like you have a solid record and promising career, and yet you feel that something isn't working? Your boss, colleagues, and friends might be able to tell, but they may be puzzled as to why. How could someone so talented get so lost or lose it in seemingly trivial discussions for no obvious reason? The answer is deceptively simple and straightforward, and widespread. Insecurity at work. The nagging worry that we are not quite as smart, informed, or competent as we ought to be, or as others might think. The fear that we are not good enough, or simply not enough. The second thoughts about our ideas, observations, and even about our feelings. The constant concern about being judged. Feelings of insecurity leave us over-dependent on external factors, admiration, praise, promotions. But even then, the feeling of achievement is generally temporary. Soon after, we turn inward, digging inside ourselves for a vein of confidence that remains elusive. Insecurity makes it difficult for us to make our voices heard, leaves us unable to dissent, and makes us tentative in our work relationships. It leaves us dissatisfied, undermines collaboration, and renders our teams less creative and efficient. If there is one enemy of authenticity and innovation, insecurity is it. No wonder we try so hard to get rid of it. Many people feel confused and frustrated by insecurity from time to time. We want to grow stronger and care less about how others might judge our work. But we must also realize that perhaps the ways we understand insecurity and try to deal with it just might be part of the problem. Just as people turn inward when they struggle with insecurity in the workplace, so do those who write about it. Insecurity at work is commonly seen as a personal foible associated with imposter syndrome. Sometimes it's linked with ambition and overwork, as in the case of people labeled insecure overachievers. These views cast insecurity as both a flaw and a drive, the result of a deeply rooted belief that one is a fraud, that one's achievements are a product of circumstances rather than competence. Such beliefs make us cautious and resentful in relationships. If they really knew me, they would not like me, the imposter's story goes, but I will show them. Hence, insecurity becomes a driver for chronic efforts to prove oneself. I'm only as good as my last success, but every time the praise that follows achievement is quickly hollowed out by self-doubt. While these descriptions do feel true to the experience of insecurity, they also frame it as a personal problem, a product of our history and ambitions, talents and sensitivities. Shipping people off to a development workshop or to a coach to work on their insecurity does the same thing. This approach suits the insecure, who often quietly agree that something's wrong with them. And while coaching can be of great help, the usual advice, such as set better boundaries, puts too much emphasis on insecurity as an individual failing. In fact, insecurity is a social issue with psychological consequences, not a psychological issue with social consequences. In the workplace, the roots of insecurity are often found around us, not within us. Insecure people are made, they're not born. Take the insecure overachiever, a type of person that many firms intentionally recruit and cultivate. If the only results that matter are tomorrow's, and if you are only as valuable as clients and colleagues judge you to be, then being an insecure overachiever is not a pathology, it's a necessity. Becoming one is an adaptation to a cultural ideal, one that may be personally costly and for some professionally harmful. The research on women and minorities in professional settings, for example, has made it clear that insecurity is much more of a social issue than a psychological one. While women are constitutionally just as confident as men, a cocktail of conflicting messages and personal feedback tinged with bias like, Be more assertive but less confrontational, or be authentic but less emotional. It puts them in circumstances that would make anyone second-guess themselves. Insecure behaviors such as speaking less in meetings or shying away from confrontation in those circumstances is not the expression of a sensitive psyche. It is both a response to subtle threats and a way of fitting in, or more precisely, of acquiescing to the status of misfit. Treating insecurity as a personal issue then leaves unquestioned the expectation that creates insecurity in the first place. It's the insecure person's job to toughen up, not the organization's job to loosen up. No wonder the insecure work hard and feel alone. The aspiration for those who suffer from insecurity and those who try to help is a certain detachment, an autonomy that frees us from dependence on others' approval. This is all well and good until you realize that throughout life, we need loving others in order to be healthy, independent people. It is precisely when we lack solid, supportive relationships that we turn inward and become insecure. Belonging is as fundamental a human need as autonomy. We all have some experiences of relationships in which we have found freedom. We can speak our minds, be vulnerable, and be seen, all without much fear of jeopardizing the relationship itself. We might even have experiences of relationships that make us feel truer to ourselves than we could be alone. What if those relationships were not an exception at work, but rather the norm? You guessed it. Insecurity be a momentary state, not a chronic condition. It might afflict all of us at times, but it would not define some of us for good. Bringing our full selves to work, our strengths and vulnerabilities, ideas and questions, would be neither an achievement nor a privilege. It would be a gift that we receive and give in return. Seen this way, insecurity is neither a flaw nor a drive. It's a byproduct of a workplace culture in which individualism is rampant, relationships are instrumental, and bias goes unquestioned. The answer to it cannot be simply to set better boundaries. To accept and overcome insecurity, we need to stop caring too much about each other and start to care more for each other and for the place we work in. Take care of yourself.